Donald Trump and the GOP are terrified of the new King's protest set to take place this weekend on October 18th. So let's talk about why. This isn't the first No Kings protest to take place this year. Back in June, there was a No Kings protest that took place around the country, and between 5 and 6 million people showed up for that. It was way more than organizers were expecting at the time, and it was billed when it happened as one of the top three biggest single days of protest in U.S. history. Now, this is actually being billed as the even bigger sequel to that. Organizers think that conservatively that 10 million people will be showing up to the No Kings protest this weekend. And it's not surprising to see why. Since June, things have continued to escalate and get worse with this administration, and the American people are seeing their gross misconduct on full display. Where we're seeing the government shutdown happening, where we're seeing mass layoffs of federal workers, we're seeing millions of people either see their health insurance premiums double or triple, or get kicked off of their health insurance altogether. And we're seeing ICE terrorize immigrant communities in cities across the country. And so, it is not surprising to see people ready to take to the streets and voice their discontent with what they're seeing happen in the administration. And so I want to play a clip with the trailer of the No Kings protest and what it's going to be about this weekend. So let's take a look at that first.
I'm here to fight for my future.
You are not alone. There are millions of people with you.
So this is not going to be some niche protest. This is going to be parents and veterans and students and nurses and federal workers and showing up by the millions to protest this administration. And, contrary to what people say for others, size matters in politics. People are going to look at the numbers and how many people show up and okay, so we're going to end that there. So with the turnout people are expecting, this isn't going to be some sort of niche protest. This is going to be parents and veterans and students and nurses and federal workers and people from all walks of life who are showing up to clearly voice their unhappiness with what they're seeing, going on in the country right now. And at the end of the day, people are going to pay attention to the numbers here because size does matter in politics. A huge turnout is going to not only signal to the GOP and the administration that everyday Americans are not happy, but it's also going to signal to Democrats that they should hold firm in their negotiations in this shutdown. And the GOP is clearly nervous about this. Over the past couple of days, unprompted, they're doing everything they can to start talking about these protests and try to downplay them as much as they can, because I think they realize that there's going to be a huge turnout this weekend and that it could signal a real turning point for them in this shutdown or take them past a point of no return. And so they're doing everything they can to try to discount what these protests are going to mean. And so I want to show you what Mike Johnson had to say about the protests over the weekend. Let's take a look.
Season because of this nonsense, and we're so angry about it. I mean, I'm a very patient guy, but I have had it with these people. They're playing games with real people's lives. The theory we have right now, they have a Hate America rally that's scheduled for October 18th on the National Mall. It's all the pro-Hamas wing and the Antifa people. They're all coming out. Some of the House Democrats are selling T-shirts for the event, and it's being told to us that they won't be able to reopen the government until after that rally because they can't face their rabid base. I mean, this is serious business hurting real people. And I'm beyond words. I can't believe they're actually doing this.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, you're
Look, Johnson smearing this as a Hate America rally is ridiculous and projection. And look, these people are not going to show up this weekend because they hate the country. They're showing up because they love the country and they know the country can do better and be better. And they want to demand better because they love the country and they know it can be something else than what it is right now, which is an administration that is hurting everyday working Americans and, terrorizing people that don't look like them and, taking things away from people in order to help out their rich friends. That people are showing up to say, we don't want a country that looks like that. And to these protesters and everybody who's going to go to No Kings, that's showing up because they love their country. And so I think this whole, these are all pro Hamas people. This protest has nothing to do with that. This has to do with our country that we live in. And this whole idea that people who show up are hate the country is absurd. And all these Trump lackeys, though, have sort of been showing up all weekend, repeating some of these familiar talking points and saying that. But of course, there's this whole focus on are people really showing up because they want to be there, or are they being paid? And that's always a line they love to go to. So let's see what Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy had to say when he was on Fox News this weekend.
But again, the No Kings protest, Maria, really frustrating. I mean, this is part of Antifa paid protesters. It begs the question, who's funding it? But yeah, Democrats want to wait for a big rally of a No Kings protest when the bottom line is, who's running the show in the Senate? Chuck Schumer's not running the show. The No Kings protesters or organizers are running the show. Is AOC threatening a primary against Chuck Schumer? Is she running the show? But you need a strong leader in the Senate to take control and make decisions. And Chuck Schumer's blown in the breeze. He has no power, no authority, because he's given it up to his primary opponent, potentially in AOC, or to the No Kings protester organizers. And it's shameful.
And this is a favorite talking point of the GOP. I think because they know that they could never match the size and the energy of these types of protests that Democrats are able to organize. So because they can't do it, their default thought is, well, someone must be paying them. And so you're watching all these right-wing outlets try to pull people on who claim they've been paid, and that's why they're going to protest. And so they're trying to seed doubt, but it's just fundamentally not true that 10 million people are taking time out of their Saturday to go protest the misconduct by the administration. It's just sort of this manufactured fog to blur real civic energy that is rising up for people in the country. And look, if they were confident that the country was along with them, they wouldn't be working so hard to preemptively delegitimize these protests before they even happened. They know something is coming, and they know the power behind that. And so they're trying to get ahead of it. And I mean, Scott Bessent was talking to Maria Bartiromo this morning, and he had this to say, which is another kind of sort of ludicrous GOP talking point that keeps coming up over why this shutdown has happened in the first place. And now they're trying to tie this same talking point to the protests as well. Let's take a look at that.
Do you believe that's what this is about? It's more theatrics than really any, marriage to these Obamacare subsidies?
Well, Maria, the American people are being held hostage by Chuck Schumer's poll numbers. Why did he go with a clean CR in the spring? What's changed is his poll numbers versus AOC have collapsed. And if in fact they are waiting for this No Kings protest, No Kings means no paychecks. No paychecks and no government. And Maria, I think the dirty secret here for why this has dragged on for so long is the Democratic friends in the mainstream media have been downplaying this shutdown.
A couple of things from this clip. First of all, the idea that the government is shut down because Chuck Schumer is worried about being primaried by AOC is ridiculous. And the question that Scott Bessent asked of, Chuck Schumer, supported the continuing resolution in the spring. What's changed between now and then? A lot has changed between now and then. The administration has proven time and again that it can't be trusted, that agreements that are made or funds that are appropriated by Congress are just apparently loose guidelines, and that the administration doesn't have to listen to them. It doesn't have to follow the law, or that it doesn't have to hold up to any of the agreements it makes to Democrats or to anybody, frankly. So that is what's changed. And that is why we are shut down right now, because Democrats want firm commitments that people are not going to have their health care ripped away, and that the ACA subsidies are going to be extended in order to reopen the government. And so all of that is what has changed in the past several months. But it's just interesting to watch the GOP try all of these different talking points to see what sticks. So this week, apparently, it's paid protesters and the AOC Chuck Schumer primary potential, which is nuts. And I think the reason the GOP is worried about this is, public polling and public opinion is not on their side in this shutdown right now, and it keeps moving that way by the day. And as these protests take place this weekend, it risks really firming up that feeling across the country and continuing to move the tide in Democrats' favor in this shutdown. And if these protests are loud enough and big enough, they're going to possibly have to cave on this thing they don't want to, which is the overwhelmingly popular support to extend the ACA subsidies so people don't lose their health care. And so, these protests need to be peaceful. They need to be loud but peaceful, because what nobody wants to do is give this administration more justification to antagonize protesters and continuing to try to crack down on dissent and free speech. And so, the bigger these protests are, but the more peaceful they are, the more successful they are going to be in bringing about an end to this shutdown. And that is what everybody is hoping for. And so the bottom line is, as the GOP is out there this week trying to downplay, everything that's going to happen in the lead up to these protests, that their talking points aren't persuasion, it's preemptive damage control and a preemptive attempt to stop what they see is inevitably coming. That is it for me today. If you liked what you saw, throw a like on this video, follow the Demwins Media YouTube channel, follow me at buildingthebench.substack.com, and we will keep bringing you the news as you need to see it. Thanks for watching.